Paul George went on a podcast and said he felt disrespected by the number that Los Angeles gave him, which led him to sign in Philadelphia. Meanwhile, you have a guy in Jalen Brunson who's saying, I don't really care that much about the money. And I totally understand there are different points in their career. Paul George is not going to be given an opportunity to potentially get a $400 million contract in just a couple of years. But I think it's fascinating where a guy who says he's competing for a championship then gets disrespected and leaves to go to Philadelphia versus a guy in Jalen Brunson who says he's competing for a championship and then actually takes the steps to make it easier for his team to compete for a championship. It's very, very unique. We have seen stuff like this to an extent, not nearly to this extent of a haircut. But if you remember, like back in the early days of the Golden State Warriors, at one point during their championship run, Steph Curry was like the seventh highest paid player on the team. Not in the NBA, on the team. This dude had MVPs to his name, but he's not making it all about the money. So it is very nice if you just love the heart of competition to see a guy be okay with still a substantial amount, like $156 million of generational wealth. He's happy with a substantial amount of money, but also saying we can navigate this to make it easier for my team to win a championship, which at the end of the day should be the goal of this entire operation.
And it is. And it is. And you know what, too? Because the Knicks re-signed OG Anunoby this offseason for 5 years, $212.5 million. So they're giving him a boatload of money. And they just traded for Mikal Bridges from the Brooklyn Nets. Now, Bridges has 2 years, $48 million left on his contract. So he's going to be coming up on a big contract extension as well in the next year or two. And what Brunson now did makes it that much easier to give Mikal Bridges his bag. And maybe Mikal wants to take a little pay cut as well, following Brunson's footsteps here. Maybe everybody on the Knicks are just going to start taking pay cuts, except for Isaiah Hartenstein. That's stiff. He's dead to me. He can go. He wanted the money in Oklahoma City. He wanted to go play with the Thunder. He wants to play with a championship contender out west. Okay, have fun living in Oklahoma City, Isaiah. I can tell you, definitely a lot of fun out there compared to Manhattan, the mecca, the world's most famous arena. Neither here nor there. That makes paying Bridges a lot easier. And if they decide to keep him, I'm a Julius Randle guy. The Knicks winning a championship, they need him this year. Now, we'll see what happens next year. We'll see what happens in 2 years. Does somebody like Devin Booker become available? Do other superstars, does Giannis finally say, you know what, I've had enough. I'm not going to win again in Milwaukee. I want to go to the New York Knicks. Who never knows? It makes it that much easier now to go after these guys. Then they trade Julius Randle or do whatever they have to do. Like I said, Jalen Brunson in a couple of years, yes, he's going to be getting $70 million a year. But for now, over the next 3-4 years, he has set this team up to be able to make moves that they need to make to put themselves in a position to win a championship, because the Boston Celtics, everybody's still chasing them, right? Unless the Celtics just go through regression or guys get hurt next year, they're the best team in the NBA. They're the best team in the East. Everybody's going for the crown, and nothing that Boston has done this offseason other than their owner basically just throw $1 billion at everybody and say, yeah, all right, I'm going to sell the team now. Somebody else take over. Like, there's nothing that's changing. Boston's still great. Philadelphia, as much as, again, as much as Embiid's knee and Paul George's knee is a giant concern come the playoffs on paper, that team is right there. They're neck and neck with the New York Knicks. Not to mention the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis and Dame, and the Indiana Pacers, who, again, just when it looks like it's Knicks Celtics on course for the Eastern Conference, the Pacers, albeit with a depleted Knicks team because of injury, crashed the party and said, "Nuh-uh, we got a young team. We're paying our guys. We're going to be here." So I think, too, our esteemed producer Mario put in our chat, well, how long is the window for the Knicks? Well, it's limitless right now. What do you think about the NFC East this season?
I think if you're not betting Washington or New York to win this division, don't bet anybody to win the division. You're a silly goose if you're laying minus 120 for a divisional winning bet in July. Just that is terrible gambling. It's malpractice. Do not do that. I feel like I would be doing the public a disservice, Pat, if I'm sitting here saying lay the minus 120. Give the sportsbook your hard-earned money and have it sit there for 4 months to get a minus 120. I'd stay away from that. I'm looking at either Washington or New York to win the division if I'm gambling on anybody to win the division. And I'll go back to Washington finishing second at plus 550. I usually try and stay away from where you're going to finish in divisions. That seems to me to be a very tough market to be sharp in. But if I'm looking at the value, that seems to me like the best value, knowing the craziness that is consistently the NFC East. We have 20 years of data about how consistently nuts this division is, with all of the movement and nobody winning in consecutive years over that span of time. So I would look at Washington finishing second. I would not bet anybody to finish last in this division. Even if you hate the Giants, that's minus 125. You're not putting down minus 125 expecting a team to suck. You're just not going to do it. Maybe if you hate Dallas or you hate Philadelphia and you think 18-1 isn't bad, if you think Dallas is going to implode, if you think injuries are going to pile up, if you think they're going to fight each other on the sidelines or something along those lines, maybe you lay the 18-1. But outside of maybe Washington finishing second, there's not a lot that appeals to me as a gambler in this division where I feel confident in saying I'm going to lay this for 4 months and hope that it comes out all right.
Yeah, and I think specifically, like you mentioned, the Giants are minus 125 to finish last in the NFC East. If you think they're going to finish last, why don't you just take their under win total? Because you're probably going to end up paying less juice. You're probably going to pay the minus 110 standard VIG if you want to take the Giants under. Plus, there's a chance that they go under and the Commanders go under and the Commanders finish last. I mean, there's a chance, right? But you know that if the Giants are finishing last, they're definitely going under their win total. The fourth place team in the NFC East isn't winning 7 games. It's probably going to be 5, at most 6.
You know, Howard, you mentioned Marvin Harrison Jr. People thought he was the best player in this past year's NFL draft. What has he been like? How is he getting kind of accustomed to playing now in Arizona with his team?
Yeah, I mean, he's, and you always have to, I guess look a little closely at what people say, only because you expect them to say good things. But teammates gush about the guy, not only with his ability, but just with the way he carries himself. He doesn't come in like a prima donna. He doesn't come in, thinking that, he's the greatest thing, in the world. He's come in, he asks questions, he works hard, he has that work ethic. And I remember guys at the end of last season, I had a conversation with Paris Johnson, the Cardinals tackle, who played, obviously, with Harrison at Ohio State. And I said, hey, what would you think about Marvin Harrison coming to this team? And he couldn't stop gushing about him just for what I was saying about his work ethic, the way he carries himself. And so that's what everybody just points at and talks about how good this guy can be, but he knows he has to work to be good, and that's a big positive around him.